Deuteronomy was an incredible achievement. It brought monotheism to life for Judeans by retelling the story of Moses, focusing above all on his teachings about how human beings should treat one another. The first to be inspired by the new book was one of the great social prophets, Jeremiah, who told the people of Judah of the promise God made to them in Deuteronomy.
If you truly treat one another fairly, if you do not steal from the stranger, the orphan or the widow, if you do not shed innocent blood, and if you do not follow other gods, then I shall let you stay in this place, in the country I gave forever to your ancestors of old.
The demand is that we care for one another and love one another. And in so doing, the prophets tell us, that is how you find God. The social prophets are ferocious in their insistence that if you have wealth, it must be shared. You can't just simply, as Amos says, lie on your couches of ivory and drink wine. If you're not feeding the poor, it doesn't make a difference whether you go to church or synagogue, you're failing God.
With the nation now governed by the laws of Deuteronomy, King Josiah believed he would have God on his side in his battle to save Judah. He decided to launch a surprise attack on the Egyptian-Assyrian alliance that he judged to be the greatest danger to his people. In 609 BC, Josiah and his men ambushed an Egyptian army. But in the battle that followed, the Judeans were routed, and King Josiah was killed. After Josiah's death, the kings that followed him re-established the worship of Asherah and all of the other gods. In response to their abandonment of monotheism, the prophet Jeremiah told the people of Judah that he had received an ominous message from God.
The word of Yahweh came to me. Make your way down to the potter's house. So I went down to the potter's house, and there he was, working at the wheel. But the vessel he was making came out wrong, as may happen with clay when a potter is at work. So he began over again. Then the word of Yahweh came to me. House of Israel, can I not do to you what this potter does? Listen, I am preparing a disaster for you.
According to Jeremiah, God was so angry, he decided to send the Judeans into exile and start over.
Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, advanced on Jerusalem. Carried off all the treasures of the temple of Yahweh and all the treasures of the palace. Then he carried Jerusalem off into exile.
With the Babylonians' conquest of Judah, the scribes had come to the end of their story of how the chosen people were sent into exile. Yet even with this new Bible in their possession, the Judeans seemed destined to disappear, like all the other tiny nations uprooted from their homelands. For in a world where empires swept away all who stood in their path, How could a book of stories save a people from extinction? But in Babylon, something remarkable happened. As the Judean exiles read and studied the Bible, their vision of who they were was transformed.
These would be great stories even if they were just stories about the past. But for the people of Israel, these stories were their story. So when you learned the story of Israelites becoming free of slavery in Egypt and experiencing extraordinary things on the way out, you didn't just read that as a great story to tell the kids. It was your own belief in the power, the importance of liberation, of becoming free. So it's not just history, it's not just memory. It's a life, it's part of you.
The exiles also came to a new understanding of why they were in Babylon from reading the Bible.
It contains a record of the covenant between the people of Israel and their God. But it also lists the penalties for violating the covenant. And among the penalties that are listed is exile. Here you have a historical book that tells a religious story. It's not a real historical book. It's a vehicle expressing a religious philosophy. But the religious philosophy is God is fair, and if you are punished, there's a reason for it.
The stories also contained another message. For those who accepted their guilt and changed their ways, there was hope.
If you return to your God, if with all your heart and all your soul you obey His voice, then He will bring back your captives. Should you have been banished to the very sky's end, your God will gather you again, even from there.
For the short term, it was obvious what they had to do. They had to look at the covenant, and they had to start living by the covenant in exile. And what you actually see in the Babylonian exile is the transformation of Israelite religion into something new that we can call the earliest form of Judaism.
In Babylon, the Judeans embraced the belief in one all-powerful God as never before. And soon, in one of the most remarkable twists in history, their conviction that their God would allow a faithful people to return home was going to come true.